We are going to open here. There is so much to cover. I don't know how I'm going to fit it all in. I just don't. It's like trying to fit 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. We're going to try, but boy, is there a lot to get to. And we're going to start with the New Japan New Beginning in Osaka show that concluded only a few hours ago, earlier this morning. I didn't know if I'd have a chance to watch it. They were sold out at the Osaka Joe Hall, over 11,000 people for the show. The biggest announcement, they made a bunch of announcements during the show. Kind of like what they do with upcoming events during Wrestle Kingdom. They kind of lay things out, their calendar for the year. The biggest announcement is that New Japan is returning to Madison Square Garden in New York for an event they are calling Wrestle Dynasty this summer on August 22nd. That is a Saturday night. That is their first trip back to MSG since the sellout with ROH for the Supercard, the G1 Supercard last April. And there was a lot of talk that MSG was not going to welcome in other wrestling promotions. AAA tried to run a show there last fall, I believe, and did so poorly in the advanced sales that they moved the show next door to the theater at Madison Square Garden, where I think they got about 4,000 people in there, but less so WWE telling them, hey, you can't do this. And it was more just a case of MSG kind of reading the tea leaves and saying, there really isn't anybody else who's going to be able to come in and pack this place, so we'll just kind of stick with WWE. But I guess they realized, New Japan was a big part of that sellout last April. I would even say the entire reason that show sold out had to do with the New Japan involvement, not so much Ring of Honor. And they said, fuck it, we'll bring back New Japan. And so this time they're going solo. Now, since we're starting to see some more cohesion between ROH and New Japan, I suppose it's possible that we will get a Ring of Honor presence on that show. Marty Scurll is sort of the bridge now between the two promotions. They're really rekindling their relationship of late. So yeah, we may get Ring of Honor involvement on the show in some way. But that's a big deal. New Japan is going to be effectively hosting their own show for the first time at Madison Square Garden. And also, this will be running head-to-head against the NXT TakeOver show that very same night in Boston. That is SummerSlam weekend. So there's going to be some head-to-head action going on that night. We also learned that the start of the G1 Climax 30, will take place September 19th and September 20th. Of course, the finals are set already for October 16, 17, and 18 because of the Olympics. The G1 is being delayed by a few months this year, hence the late start. And their TV show, World Pro Wrestling, is returning in April at 8 p.m. on Friday nights on the satellite station BS Asahi in Japan, which is not to be confused with their main TV Asahi channel. So this doesn't really do anything for you if you're a US fan. Ever since they were booted off Access, there's still no word on any kind of US TV deal. But I guess that's kind of a big deal if you are a New Japan fan over in Japan. So those are the announcements. Now, I watched the last 4 matches of this New Beginning show this morning before I hit the record button here. Kota Ibushi was back in action after missing the New Beginning tour in the U.S. He was very, very sick. He had what was called Mallory Weiss syndrome, and I guess he's all better now because he was back in action. He teamed up with Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, and David Finlay in a win over the Gorillas of Destiny, Yujiro Takahashi and Chase Owens. And Okada tagged with Will Ospreay to beat Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi. I did not see either one of those matches. I picked things up with the Sanada Jay White match, the last 4 matches or so on this card, the key ones. And Sanada against Jay White, there was a spot in this match where Sanada spiked himself on top of his own head when he was trying to use the ropes for leverage to get over for a standing sliced bread. Couldn't quite get over enough, landed right on top of his head. That was scary. He didn't miss a beat, but when you see it in real time, it's scary. Geto got involved a whole bunch of times, as he does in most Jay White matches. White picks up the win after dropping Sanada with the Blade Runner. I hate that Sanada is always losing. I mean, Jay White is a fantastic heel. I will give him his just due. He's great in that role. I could do without, as much Geto as they give us in these matches. But I hate that Sanada is always losing. Now maybe it's part of a longer story with him being the only member of LIJ to not really find much in the way of major single success on his own. I think it's getting a little old, though. I like Sanada. I think he should be higher than where he is. As a match, though, I thought it was good. Then we had Hiromu Takahashi against Ryu Lee for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. What can I say about this match? This match was the definition of insanity. They got into a chop battle, and I'd say 5 minutes into this match, they were chopping the shit out of each other. I'm surprised they didn't cave each other's chests in. Gino Gambino, he was on commentary. He made reference to a Kenta Kobashi chop battle. He had many of those. I remember the one he had with Samoa Joe. But he made reference to a Kobashi chop battle that once lasted about 4.5 minutes straight. I think this one lasted as long, if not longer. They had little breaks in between. But this was like the never-ending chop battle, and they were not holding back. You would think, oh, a couple of junior heavyweights here. How brutal could it be? This was brutal. This was brutality watching this. There was a jumping Rana from Ryu Lee from the inside of the ring, over the ropes. Caught Hiromu on the apron, took him all the way down to the floor. Hiromu's body bounced off the floor. And there's not exactly a lot of real estate out there between the guardrail and the ring. So you've got to time this just perfectly. Otherwise, you're going to go just hurling right into the guardrail. But he didn't. Maybe he should have. Maybe it would have felt better than bouncing off the floor. So, as if that wasn't insane enough, Lee positions Hiromu on top of the metal barricade. He basically sits him on top of the guardrail. And he's right in front of where all the announce desks are. And Ryu Lee gets back into the ring, and he does this running tope through the ropes. He collides with Hiromu, and both men tumble backwards onto the announce desk and then roll down onto the floor. Holy shit. Holy shit. This was insane. But you expected nothing less from these two, I guess. I mean, you really you know what you're getting into when these two are in the ring together. Hiromu came right back, sunset bomb out of the ring, power bombs Lee from the apron down to the floor. Lee came back, double stomped Hiromu. Hiromu was hanging down from the top rope, double stomped him all the way down to the floor. Hiromu gave Lee an overhead judo throw from the apron down to the floor. These fucking guys were killing themselves out there. A Hiromu bomb from the floor, or from the top rope rather, down all the way to the floor. We got a German suplex sequence between the two. Hiromu just came back from 18 months away from a broken neck. You would never know it. He's certainly not taking it easy. It's funny, when I was watching the chop battle, I thought to myself, okay, maybe this is kind of his way of taking things a little bit easy, right? Well, just chop the shit out of each other. And that was brutal enough, but then he just came right back and started doing all this shit. And I'm like, nope. Right back to the old Hiromu. Kevin Kelly, I think he had a comment here. He said it best. He said, these two bring out the best and the worst in each other, which is absolutely true. It took 2 time bombs from Hiromu. The first one didn't look good at all, so he hit it a second time, and he finally got the win. He retains the championship. What a match. What a match. I almost felt guilty watching it, but what a match. The words escape me for what we saw here. This was this was like a car crash, is what this was. I think they probably would have come out of a car crash in better shape than they did here in this match. Then we had the match that I was waiting for. Jon Moxley defending his IWGP United States Championship against Minoru Suzuki. I've been waiting for this and looking forward to this since Moxley arrived in New Japan. Moxley came out of the crowd. He had his pirate eye patch on, although it came off pretty quickly after that, still selling the AEW injury. He comes out through the crowd, puts his belt down, and promptly turns around and walks up the ramp, turns around and motions for Suzuki to come meet him up there. So Suzuki obliges. First, he grabs 2 chairs from ringside. A very kind man, right? He's going to grab one for himself, very considerate. He grabs one for Moxley as well. So Moxley has a chair. Suzuki has a chair. And they begin with a duel. Who needs a fucking lightsaber when you've got a steel chair? So they have this chair duel to begin. So this is going about as well as you would have expected it to. Sounds about right. Moxley gets the better of it. He ends up sprawled out, though, across a bunch of seats in the crowd, while Suzuki hits him with a piece of the metal guardrail. This is only in the first, 3 minutes of the match. So finally, they get into the ring. They're biting each other. They spill back outside the ring. And Moxley pulls a table out from underneath the ring. Suzuki, though, he gets Moxley's arm. He places it inside of a chair. So the whole Pillmanized thing, right? He puts his right forearm, his arm, into the chair. He lays it across this table. Moxley's on his knees. He's got his hand across the table. Suzuki grabs the second chair, and he smashes the other one with Moxley's arm trapped inside. So the announcers are selling this. They're screaming, Moxley's arm is broken. Suzuki takes the arm and he slams it into the post. Oh my God, Moxley's arm is broken. Suzuki gets him in an armbar on the apron. And Moxley muscles him up, and he manages to powerbomb him through the table outside. And they zoom in on Minoru Suzuki's face, and Suzuki is smiling as if he enjoyed it. He gets up, he grabs a piece of the broken table, he starts whacking himself in the head with it. Moxley sees this. He's back in the ring. He's got a piece of the table. He's doing the same thing. He's hitting himself in the head with a piece of this table. These two should have had a straitjacket match because they both belong in one. So they exchange forearms. Moxley is selling the arm is hurting, so he has to start using his left hand. Moxley hits the elevated Death Rider. Suzuki kicks out. He becomes the first person to kick out of the elevated Death Rider. Now it's Moxley. He grabs two chairs. He gives one to Suzuki to use. Red Shoes is trying to take the chairs away. He gets shoved down, and Moxley smashes the chair over Suzuki's head. He breaks the seated part of the chair off. And Suzuki, again, they zoom in on him, and he's standing there, and he is smiling. He is smiling. He gives Suzuki a double-arm DDT onto the chair. They get back up. Suzuki is on spaghetti legs. He starts slapping himself in the face to try to fire himself up. He slaps the shit out of Jon Moxley. Moxley comes back, second elevated Death Rider, and he gets the 3 count to retain the championship. This was so much fun to watch. I thought Suzuki might have a chance. I really did. I didn't think it was a foregone conclusion that Moxley was going to win. So for me, anyway, there was a little bit of drama. I thought I would have picked him to win, but I wasn't 100% sure, so there was a little bit of drama down the stretch for me. I certainly wouldn't have minded. I think it's a crime that Suzuki has not been the IWGP champion. I mean, the guy is, 51, 52? He's as good as ever. I love watching Minoru Suzuki matches. He's great. You put him in there with a guy like Moxley and that brawling style that he has when he's over there in New Japan, he's like a totally different performer. So this was a lot of fun. This was exactly what I expected it to be. I wouldn't mind seeing it again, frankly. Although it seems like Moxley now is moving on. When the match was over, Zack Sabre Jr., the British heavyweight champion, he runs out, he attacks Moxley, hits him in the head with the title, with the U.S. title, I think it was, chokes him out with a sleeper hold, puts the body scissors on. Moxley is out. And so Moxley now has his next opponent in New Japan. They're going to have the Brit against the American in a New Japan ring. Main event was Tetsuya Naito against KENTA for both of Naito's belts, the IWGP and IWGP Intercontinental title. All of the Bullet Club members are in the ring. Red Shoes get shoved down before the bell even rings, and so he throws them all out. Throw out all the bums. I thought this was, it turned into a very good match at the end. I thought it was very slow for like the first 12 to 15 minutes. Just very methodical, a little too much for my liking. Plus, I was just like, all right, I got a show to do here, so let's speed things up a little bit. That might have been part of my problem here. But there was an avalanche Rana by Naito. Hits Gloria, gets a near fall. Goes for the Destino, it gets countered. Red Shoes takes a bump. Out comes Jay White. Jay White comes down, he attacks Naito. Bushi arrives. He spits mist, but it misses. He gets laid out. Hiromu comes out. He finally takes out Jay White. Naito counters the GTS attempt by KENTA into a reverse DDT. KENTA shoots him into the corner, and Naito collides headfirst. There's the top turnbuckle had been exposed earlier in the match. No turnbuckle padding, nothing. Naito goes headfirst into the buckle, and he comes up busted wide open. You don't see that very often in New Japan, but the blood definitely added to the drama of the final few minutes of this. I mean, his face was just covered in crimson. And the GTS is countered into a Poison Rana and Valencia for a 2 count by Naito. Naito finally hits the Destino. It only took one. I'm so used to seeing 4, 5, 6, 7 different Destinos here. Same thing with the Rainmakers, but he hit one good Destino. He got the pin. He's got the blood-covered face. This really picked up in those final few minutes. But I'd have to say my favorite match of the show. It's hard because Moxley and Suzuki, I was very partial going into this, but how do you vote against whatever the hell that was between Hiromu and Ryu Lee? I'm going to go with Moxley and Suzuki as personal preference. That was my favorite, but the junior heavyweight title match was just insanity. So Naito gets on the mic. He's covered in blood. He calls out Hiromu. Says, come on down. Takahashi comes out. He wants Hiromu next. As is, I guess, the tradition where the IWGP champion wrestles the junior heavyweight champion. So they're sticking with tradition on this. And Hiromu comes out and he reminds Naito of something that Naito said to him before he left for his excursion. When he said that the two of them are going to have a match once he gets back. So, of course, Hiromu's answer is yes. So I guess the question now is, will Hiromu become Takahashi 3 belts? If we assume that both of Naito's belts are going to be on the line in their match. And that was the show. So a very strong, again, I didn't see the first, the tag matches. But as far as the singles matches, the key matches on the show, I thought this was an excellent show, what I saw. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, this was an easy 8, I would say. Maybe even, I might even go 8.5. Really good stuff. And one last thing I want to mention about Minoru Suzuki. It was announced this week that Suzuki is going to be wrestling Orange Cassidy at Joey Janela's Spring Break show in Tampa the Friday before WrestleMania. It almost makes me want to fly to Tampa this year just for that show alone. Although I suppose I already am. I'm wrestling Minoru Suzuki. Now you know why I'm not going to WrestleMania this year. I'm going to be attending my own funeral. But I bring this up because I do laugh at some of the people I saw shitting on the match. As though it is somehow beneath Minoru Suzuki to do comedy, to do like a comedy match like this, or have to sell for a guy like Orange Cassidy. Oh my God, why would Suzuki do something like this? The guy dressed up as Bruiser Brody years ago and wrestled as Bruiser Minotti. He did an empty arena match once in the Tokyo Dome that was total comedy and very entertaining if you ever want to look it up, by the way. He's wrestled women and sold for them. He was in a battle royal, wrestling a young Riho once. And he's also beaten the crap out of some of these women for an uncomfortably long period of time, like he did with Asuka many years ago. That was tough to watch. But the point is, he has done comedy. He does it his way. It does not hurt his mystique at all whatsoever. I think it's great. So my advice to these people is very simple. Smile. Smile a little bit. Crack a smile. I promise it doesn't hurt. You might actually enjoy yourself.